Let me start with something that might feel a little uncomfortable. Every single decade quietly creates a new group of wealthy people. Not celebrities, not lottery winners, just ordinary individuals who happened to recognize an opportunity early and acted on it before it became obvious. The surprising part, at the time, it never feels like a big opportunity. Think back for a moment. In the early days of the internet, people thought it was a trend. When smartphones first came out, many believed they were unnecessary luxuries. Even more recently, when new digital financial systems started emerging, most people dismissed them as too risky or too complicated. But fast forward a few years, and suddenly those same opportunities look obvious, safe, even inevitable. And that's the pattern. The biggest wealth opportunities don't come with certainty. They come wrapped in doubt, hesitation, and a lot of noise. They require you to make decisions when you don't have all the answers, when things feel unclear. That's exactly why most people miss them. Because as humans, we're wired to wait. We wait for validation. We wait for proof. We wait until everyone else is doing the same thing so we can feel comfortable following along. But by the time something feels comfortable, the real opportunity has already passed its peak. Wealth is rarely created in the stage where everyone agrees. It's created in the stage where only a few people are paying attention. Right now, we're in one of those early stages again. It doesn't look like a once-in-a-decade opportunity. It looks confusing. It feels uncertain. There are mixed opinions everywhere. Some people are excited, others are skeptical, and many are simply ignoring it altogether. That's exactly what makes it powerful. Because opportunities that are obvious attract crowds. And when crowds arrive, the upside shrinks. The early advantage disappears. But when something is still being questioned, when people are still debating whether it's worth their time, that's when the real leverage exists. And here's the key idea to hold on to. You don't need to be perfect to benefit from an opportunity like this. You just need to be early enough. Not the first person, not the expert. Just ahead of the majority. The people who build meaningful wealth in moments like these aren't taking reckless risks. They're simply willing to lean in a little sooner, to learn a little faster, to act while others are still watching. And later, when the story is told, it will sound simple. People will say, of course that worked. But right now, it doesn't feel simple at all. It feels uncertain. And that uncertainty is the signal most people ignore. Because history doesn't feel like history when you're living through it. It just feels like another ordinary moment, until one day you realize it wasn't. Now let's slow this down and really understand what's happening, because this isn't about hype, it's about recognizing patterns. We are living through a very unusual moment where multiple financial shifts are happening at the same time. And historically, when that happens, it creates outsized opportunities for the people who are paying attention. The first shift is technology. We're not just seeing small improvements, we're seeing exponential change. Tools powered by artificial intelligence, automation, and digital platforms are completely transforming how people earn money, build businesses, and invest. Tasks that once took hours now take minutes. Skills that were once rare are becoming accessible. Entire industries are being reshaped in real time. And when the way people earn changes, the way people build wealth changes too. The second shift is access. Not long ago, investing felt exclusive. It was something reserved for professionals, institutions, or people with large amounts of capital. Today, that barrier has largely disappeared. With just a phone and an internet connection, anyone can learn, invest, and participate in markets that were once out of reach. This changes the game completely, because wealth building is no longer limited by access. It's limited by awareness and action. The third shift is pressure on traditional systems. Across the world, people are feeling it. Rising costs, unstable job markets, and increasing uncertainty about long-term financial security. The idea that a single job and a steady paycheck will guarantee stability is becoming less reliable. And when old systems stop working the way they used to, people are forced to look for alternatives. That's where opportunity lives. Not in comfort, but in transition. When you combine these three forces, rapid technology, open access, and pressure on traditional paths, you get a unique environment. One where new ways of earning, investing, and growing wealth are not just possible, but necessary. But here's the important part. This doesn't mean everything new is a good opportunity. It means there are more opportunities than ever, and also more distractions. That's why clarity matters. Because in times like these, it's easy to confuse movement with progress, to chase trends instead of understanding fundamentals, to react instead of thinking long-term. The real advantage comes from stepping back and asking better questions. Where is value actually being created? Which skills are becoming more relevant, not less? Which opportunities have long-term potential, not just short-term excitement? Because the people who benefit the most from these shifts are not the ones chasing everything. They're the ones who position themselves thoughtfully. They observe patterns. They stay curious. They take calculated steps forward, while others are either rushing blindly or standing still. And over time, that positioning compounds. What looks like a small decision today, learning a new skill, starting to invest, paying attention to emerging trends, can turn into a completely different financial trajectory over the next decade. That's how these moments work. They don't transform your life overnight. They quietly change your direction. And a small change in direction sustained over time leads somewhere very different. So what's happening right now isn't just another cycle or another trend. It's a shift in how wealth is created, accessed, and sustained. And whether someone benefits from it or not won't come down to luck. It will come down to whether they recognize the shift early enough to do something about it. Here's the difficult truth that doesn't get talked about enough. Even when a real opportunity is right in front of people, most will still walk past it. Not because they're incapable and not because they lack intelligence, but because of how we naturally think and behave around uncertainty. When something new appears, the first instinct isn't curiosity, it's caution. People start looking for reassurance. They want guarantees. They want to know that if they take a step forward, it will definitely work out. And if that certainty isn't there, they hesitate. That hesitation feels responsible in the moment. It feels like you're avoiding risk. But over time, it becomes the very thing that limits growth. Because opportunities like this don't come with guarantees. They come with potential. And there's a big difference between the two. So what do most people do instead? They wait. They wait for more information. They wait for someone else to succeed first. They wait for the news to confirm it. They wait until it becomes a safe decision. But what they don't realize is that every step of waiting reduces the upside. By the time something feels obvious, the early advantage is already gone. The steepest part of the growth curve has already happened. What's left is still valuable, but it's no longer transformational. Another reason people miss these moments is comparison. They look at others who seem more experienced, more knowledgeable, or more confident, and they convince themselves they're too late or not ready. So instead of starting small, they don't start at all. Or they fall into the trap of thinking they need to do everything perfectly from the beginning. The perfect strategy, the perfect timing, the perfect knowledge. And that pressure creates paralysis. Because perfection is impossible, especially at the start. Then there's the influence of the crowd. When most people around you are doing nothing, it becomes very easy to do nothing too. It feels normal. It feels safe. There's comfort in moving with the majority, even if the majority is standing still. But wealth has never been built by following what's comfortable. It's built by making slightly different decisions consistently over time. And perhaps the biggest reason people miss out is that they underestimate small actions. They think if they can't invest large amounts, it's not worth starting. If they can't master something quickly, it's not worth learning. If the results aren't immediate, it's not working. So they stop before anything has time to compound. But that's not how this works. In reality, the difference between someone who benefits from a decade of opportunity and someone who doesn't often comes down to very small repeated choices. Choosing to learn instead of scroll. Choosing to start instead of delay. Choosing consistency over intensity. These choices don't feel significant in the moment. They're quiet, almost invisible. But over years, they stack. And eventually, they create a gap that looks dramatic from the outside, even though it was built gradually. So when we say most people will miss this opportunity, it's not because the opportunity disappears. It's because their habits, their fears, and their mindset keep them from stepping into it. And the irony is, years later, many of those same people will look back and say, I saw it, I just didn't act. Not realizing that action, even imperfect, even small, was the only thing that ever mattered. So what does all of this actually mean for you? In practical terms? Because it's easy to listen to ideas like this, feel motivated for a moment, and then go right back to doing the same things as before. But this only matters if something changes. And the change doesn't need to be dramatic. In fact, the most effective shifts are usually small, consistent, and intentional. The first thing to focus on is awareness. Not just casually consuming financial content, but genuinely understanding your own money. Where it comes from, where it goes, and how it could work harder for you. Most people operate on autopilot. They earn, spend, maybe save a little, and repeat. But they never step back to analyze or improve the system. That awareness is powerful because it gives you control. And without control, it's very difficult to build anything meaningful over time. The second thing is starting before you feel ready. There's a tendency to treat financial growth like something that requires a perfect starting point. More income, more time, more knowledge. But waiting for ideal conditions is one of the most expensive decisions you can make. Because time is the one factor you can't get back. Even small amounts invested consistently can grow into something significant. Not because of luck, but because of compounding. And compounding only works if you give it time to do its job. So starting early, even imperfectly, is far more valuable than starting perfectly later. The third focus is positioning. This is less about a specific investment and more about how you place yourself in an evolving world. The skills you build, the information you pay attention to, the opportunities you explore, all of these shape your financial direction. Positioning means staying adaptable, being willing to learn when things change instead of resisting those changes. It means not tying your entire future to one path, but instead building flexibility into how you grow. Because the people who benefit most from periods like this are not the ones who guess perfectly. They're the ones who adjust quickly. Another important piece is filtering noise. In times of opportunity, there's always an increase in opinions, predictions, and distractions. Some of it sounds convincing, some of it creates urgency, and a lot of it is designed to pull your attention in different directions. If you try to follow everything, you end up overwhelmed and inconsistent. So part of moving forward effectively is simplifying. Focusing on principles that have always worked, consistency, patience, discipline, and applying them in a modern context. You don't need to chase every new idea. You need to follow through on a few good ones. And finally, it comes down to responsibility. Not in a heavy or overwhelming way, but in a clear and honest one. Your financial future is not something that will be decided for you. It will be shaped by the decisions you make repeatedly over time, the habits you build, the risk you choose to take or avoid. That might sound obvious, but it's easy to forget in day-to-day life. It's easy to assume there will always be more time, more chances, another moment to start. But opportunities like this, periods where so much is shifting at once, don't happen constantly. They come in waves. And when you're in one, the most important thing isn't to rush or to overcomplicate things. It's simply to engage with it, to learn, to act, to stay consistent. Because this isn't about catching a perfect moment. It's about using a powerful period of time in a way that moves you forward, steadily, intentionally, and with awareness. And if you do that, even in small ways, you won't just witness history being made. You'll quietly become part of it.